Well, I gotta say thanks for making the time to jump on here. I'm so excited to talk to different coaches. I think it's such a unique opportunity to
Yeah,
connect, right? Like you're in the States, you're in Cleveland, right?
correct.
So I mean, I'm West Coast Canada on the island, and we have completely different clientele. We're thousands of kilometers apart,
Hmm.
and we can take a conversation to a whole bunch of levels, but obviously we're going to find the ability to connect in certain ways and to help people that are listening connect and know that they're not alone. And talking with two trainers, it's good to get some insight into things. So I'm hoping to pick your brain. And
And then I'll pick yours a little bit. Yeah.
you can, as much as you want to pick, like we'll just pick. We're just going to
Yeah.
pick today.
Yeah. Let's just have an amazing conversation. I think this will be good.
Cool. So my first question, how close are you to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland?
I'm about 10 minutes away from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
Oh, you're
a
close.
venue in which I never go to, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I've been twice.
What was your experience like? Was it pretty awesome or what?
No, it was really awesome because when it first opened, that's how long ago it was. When it first opened, we were invited to attend an event there. So
Right.
it was maybe a year old at the time, and I can't remember who I worked for at the time, but we had an event there, and so we had exclusivity of the entire museum,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. So we could go wherever we wanted, like, and then I've only been there one other time for some type of party or something like that. It just wasn't the same experience, but
Right.
each time I've been there, it's been a great experience. So yeah, it's just not a
Awesome.
thing that in fact, on its opening night when we had that big concert in Cleveland,
Right.
we were headed out to Chicago. Like, time to get out of here. We gotta get
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah. And then you turned around, you're like, we got invited, so we better go.
Yeah, but that was a year later.
Oh,
So
gotcha. Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. My experience is I was there when I was like 13 in grade 9. We were in a stage band. So we were doing we had the full kind of ensemble on a bus driving from Ontario and ripped
Nice.
down and played there. And it was pretty cool. Pretty good
Yeah,
experience.
that's
So,
amazing. That's
yeah.
great. Now, how old are you now? I don't even want to really know, but how old are you?
32.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm 36.
36. Oh, we're close. We're close.
I mean, yeah, we're pretty close.
We're in the realm. It's not like we won't be able to relate in certain ways. It's good.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So did you just finish training, by the way? You trained this morning, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I just got home from the gym, and so the way that my mornings are set up, I personally train with my trainer 3 days a week.
Mhm.
I train on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And then as a competitor, I'm a bodybuilding competitor as well. I also train then with my coach twice a week on Wednesdays and then on Saturdays.
Right.
So usually the way that my morning goes is I go to work at 5 a.m. and I train all of my people. And then my start time for my training is usually 9:30 or 9:45. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, then I see clients after that session.
Right.
So we kind of went a little over today. And so I'm rushing home, like, oh, I got to talk to Josh.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm rushing home to get, and then there's a detour on my street. They're like digging up the street right now. So I actually had to
Perfect.
go back around. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
really just want to eat. So I eat 5 meals a day. So I'm
Yeah.
timed, which is why I was like, Josh, I'm gonna be there in just 1 second. I just got to get this
Yeah.
meal in real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know the drill, and I saw the water. I'm like, okay. I mean,
Mhm.
I know definitely a little bit about the bodybuilder routine. I've never done a show, but I've worked at gyms for like 11, close to 12 years now, and I have tons of
Mhm.
friends that have done shows. So
Yeah.
I mean, I totally get the keeping a gallon of water with you at all times
At
and
all
having the 6-pack lunch bag carried around wherever you go. You go to get gas and you're like, I better bring a meal in case, right?
And it really is that serious because you just
Yeah.
never know. I actually have a food warmer in my car.
Oh, do you?
Yes, I do. I found it on Amazon. Let me get this. And here's how that happens. So this is how serious it gets sometimes. I have two dancing kids. So when my son was a senior in high school, he was on the dance team, and then my daughter is a cheerleader. And they were both having competitions that were all over Ohio.
Yeah.
And what I realized is I don't like cold meal prep. And you can't always find a microwave. I don't like eating, cold fish. I don't
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
I said, I got to figure this out. And so my husband was like, well, see what you can find and, we'll just make it happen. And that's what I love about him, because he's always like, we'll just make it happen. So I looked on Amazon and I was like, look, they have warmers that plug into your lighter.
Boom.
And I've had it ever since. He was like, order it. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. That's a supportive husband, eh? When you start to get
Mhm.
appliances living in the car.
Yes. And we have a travel microwave and a small travel refrigerator. It's serious because when we check into hotels that don't have that, yeah, I get cranky. And he's like, nah, I'm going to run over to this Walmart. I'll be
Yeah.
right back.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
now I have everything that I need. Yeah. It's crazy. That's how
you got to
serious.
be prepared.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's it, right?
When you're dealing with fitness, bodybuilding, and a competition show, all of those three things, and all of them together, but even all of them separate, you literally cannot leave anything to chance. So if you're serious about your results, you're going to do what it takes to make sure that you have everything that you need. And that includes all little things. I think I paid $40 for that food warmer that's in the car. But you know what it does? It makes sure that when I'm leaving from one place and going to the next, it's going to take me 20 minutes to get there. Let me just put this food in there. And by the time I get to this next destination, it'll be warm.
Yeah.
Nothing to chance.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's great. Why'd you get into bodybuilding?
So bodybuilding became a natural goal after years of training.
Okay.
Right. So that's the bodybuilding piece. How did I get into bodybuilding? It was natural. I was already training for years. And I was already a personal trainer at that time. Mm-hmm. So when I got into actual bodybuilding and saying, I'm going to do my first competition, that was a natural progression. Now, how did I get into fitness? That's a whole different story, because I hated the gym. I did not want to work out ever.
Right.
Okay. My husband was always the one in the gym, and I'm like, I'm cool on that, honey, I'll see you when you get home. I'm fry up this chicken and I'm not thinking about any of that. Right. Okay. So
yeah.
So, but the funniest thing ever, that is not so funny. The funniest thing ever that happened in my life is God turned me upside down. Okay. Right. So everything that I thought in my young life that was cool, that was, okay, that, I was just living my life, just to the fullest. I had to grow up really, really quickly. And the thing that happened is I got married. I had my son already.
Okay.
My son, Ethan, today he is 20. He'll be 21.
Oh, right on. Woo! Happy birthday.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Happy birthday to you.
20 though. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's he was a normal pregnancy. He was overdue, as a matter of fact. And so by the time I got remarried and decided to have some more children, we got pregnant with a set of twins. And those twins were born at 21.6 weeks. And that's way too soon. That's before lung development, And so those boys died within an hour of being born. That's Christian and Jaden. And that turned my world upside down, because at the time, now here's some facts that I don't know if you know, or even if your listeners are even in tune with stuff like this, but they say that if you are married, you have education, you take your vitamins, you do everything, all of these, boom, 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 that you should have a healthy pregnancy. And I had done all of that. I was married, I had taken prenatal vitamins for a year because we knew we wanted to have children together. And I had a normal first pregnancy. We didn't think that anything could possibly go wrong. I had a bachelor's degree at the time, like everything.
Checking off the boxes.
Just checking all the boxes. And here I am losing babies. But, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but here in America, we deal with a lot of racist things. And so for Black women, it's difficult because it is the stress levels in your body that kicks you into labor.
Right.
And if you are already stressed by things beyond your control, then chances are you're not going to be able to carry that baby to term, because your body is going to kick you into labor sooner than your white counterparts. Right. So I speak very openly about racism and place matters and things like that for that reason, because I did not know that this could even happen to me. It's not something that we talk about, especially back then. We're talking about 2008.
Yeah. Okay.
So Christian and Jaden were born in 2008. And so I learned a lot, and I would learn even more because then we got pregnant again with another set of twins.
Oh, really?
Josh, we could talk for days about this. So it is just the craziest thing. That's why I say when God turns you upside down, sometimes it's one hell of a ride, you know. So we got pregnant with another set of twins. I had to go out on bed rest at like 14 weeks of pregnancy. As soon as we crossed this certain threshold, my doctor, her name is Sally, she was like, we're not fucking around with this pregnancy, okay? Yeah. So I need to give you a cerclage. A cerclage is where they go in and they stitch up my cervix so that the problem was my cervix was slightly open.
Okay.
And it wouldn't close. And so they call it premature rupture of the membrane.
Okay.
Right. So she went in and she stitched it closed, hoping that would keep the babies in. And it worked. Right. So she's like, we're just not going to fuck around. You're going to have to go on bed rest. Okay, that's fine. You know, I came out of work and worked from home at that time. So they were born in 2009. They are now 11. They're about to be 12. Right. Healthy babies. They were born at 37 weeks, which is amazing for, you know,
yeah.
I mean, and they were just born healthy. They're the most perfect kids you ever did see, outside of the fact that they get on my nerves from time to time. We don't have to talk about that. So fast forward. Okay, these kids are born in 2009. Mm-hmm. I decided to go back to school. I decided that child loss is something, because I didn't know anything about, that my sisters probably didn't know anything about. Mm. It's not something that we're talking about in our community. But why? Especially as you start to learn statistics about it being, you know, Black women delivering babies earlier than white women, 4-1.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. 4-1. So child. So when I decided I was going to go, I went to work for the March of Dimes. Then I went back to school to get my master's in social work.
Yeah.
All of this is happening. It's like, you know, God sent me through this perfect storm, right? And then you put grief in there too. So all of this is working together, right?
Yeah.
And when the twins were about 2, one day I just looked in the mirror. Josh, this is going to sound crazy, but let me first tell you, before I even tell you what I'm getting ready to say, is that grief knows no logic. So when people are deep in grief, the things that they think and say may not make sense to someone who does not understand the area in which they're coming from. And that's fine, but you just have to know that. Like, you have to say to yourself, you can't say out loud, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard, right? Yeah. But you can think it like, she done lost her shit, you know?
Yeah, if you can't relate, I guess, right? That's what you're saying.
Exactly. So I was thinking to myself, I looked in the mirror one day, and I was never a big chick. First of all, I was never a big chick, but I was a little fluffy, you know, like I had body fat of about 30%. So I looked way different. I weighed 140 pounds. I'm 5'1" in the morning. So, and 5'0" by the time the end of the day comes, right? So at 140 pounds, everybody was looking at me like, 140 pounds, where? Yeah, I had it well, because it's all in my midsection, right? So I look in the mirror and I'm looking at my stomach, and it's just like bulging over and hanging over. And all of a sudden, all I saw was this tomb. Right? And I was thinking to myself, I have these healthy babies. Why do I only see death when I look in this mirror? You know? And so I decided then that I probably needed to change something. But even if that wasn't going to send me to the gym, because I didn't know what to do at that point, you know, I was never a person that was in the gym. well, that's not true. In my 20s, I was. But at this point in my life, I just was not in the gym scene. So the other thing that happened simultaneously, again, we're talking about perfect storms here, is my blood pressure was really high. And I had gotten to this doctor who was a nurse practitioner, Black man, who looked me in my face. He was the only doctor, because white doctors don't talk to me like this, right? Yeah. White regular doctors, I should say, because Sally is a white woman and she talks to me all kind of crazy, but she's my OB. And she'll be like, if you don't get this shit, you know?
Yeah, she's straight up, right?
But she's also a friend of mine. Okay. This doctor, this Black male, I've had white doctors my whole life that have never talked to me the way that this man talked to me. But he looked at me, he was like, if you don't get this shit together, you're gonna fucking die. And I looked at him like, who the fuck is he talking to? Because at the time I'm like in my 30s. What are you talking about? He was like, you're not gonna see your kids grow up if you do not get this blood pressure under control. And I was like, well, that's different. He said, yeah, you could easily get this under control. You don't want to take the medicine, because that's why he was fussing at me, because I wasn't taking my medicine.
Gotcha.
Like, don't want to take the medicine? You're going to have to get in the gym. You don't have to take the medicine if you go to the gym, but you're going to have to go work out. So I was like, all right, fine. So I went and I did some Zumba. You know, I was like, okay, I'll move my body. This is fun, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Whatever. I'll entertain the idea.
Yeah, I'll entertain it and see what happens. And it turns out I really enjoyed Zumba, right? But
Zumba. Oh yeah?
Yeah, I really did like Zumba.
Cool.
And the thing about it is that at some point, I think I did that for about a year. And we would Zumba all week long. We could find a Zumba class all over the city, right? So all week long I'm doing Zumba, and my son is going with me. You know, we're having a blast, right? Moving our bodies, dancing and all that. Cool. And I plateaued though. Like, I didn't lose a lot of weight. My blood pressure did try to come down, but it really didn't. And I noticed one of my friends on Facebook, and she was dropping weight like crazy. Now, this is a friend who had weighed like 300 pounds, and she was down to like 150 pounds. And I'm looking like,
oh yeah,
you know, that's half your body, girl. What are you doing? And she said, oh, I'm over at this gym. You should come to the class with me. So I went to the class with her. It was called, the name of the gym was Naturally Gifted, and the name of the class was Burn.
Okay.
Let me tell you something. That class kicked my ass so bad, and I thought I'd be able to hang because I do Zumba every day.
Yeah.
It kicked my ass. Now I'm gonna tell you who this is, and you tell me if you know who this is. Okay. Do you know Extreme Hip Hop with Phil?
Extreme who?
Extreme Hip Hop with Phil.
No.
Okay. When we hang up, I'm gonna need you to look him up, because this is who this class was with. And he's known across the world at this point. He wasn't then.
Oh shit.
Right? This class kicked my ass.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't speak to her for 3 months because I thought she was gonna kill me. I'm telling you, I was like, oh no, this bitch is crazy. I'm not doing this. Oh, hell no. But once I got home, and once I got over my own feelings, right? Because I just could not keep up with the class. Yeah. And there was no water breaks, and there was no, you know, like, it just kept going. There was no changing of the songs, nothing, none of that. Once I got home and I sat with that information for about a week, I said to myself, I should probably call that guy and see if he'll train me.
Oh, nice.
So I called Phil and I hired him, you know, to train me. But let me tell you something. Within a year of lifting weights, see, this is something that we don't talk about as a community in general for women.
Okay.
But especially in Black women, because that's, you know, I'm a Black woman, so I specialize in Black women, of course. I'm always targeting Black women. But nobody is really telling us as women how bad we need heavy weights. And if we really want to transform our body, not just the way it looks, but the way it's functioning and everything, we have to have heavy weights. See, we think, and I said this to Phil, he laughed me right out the door. I said, listen, I don't want to come out of here looking like no man.
Yeah, classic.
Do you see that laugh, that immediate laugh that you gave me?
Yeah.
It was still the attitude. That's how uneducated we can be about what heavy lifting will do for us. right? And he looked me dead in my face, and excuse this language, but he was like, Sam, you couldn't look like a nigga if you tried, you know? And I'm like, yeah, but I've seen, you know, now I'm going on.
Yeah.
Gosh, I was so serious. That's how ignorant I was. But I started this heavy lifting, and within a year, I was off the blood pressure medicine. This doctor that told me that I had to get my shit together, he was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I mean, you told me, you know, now I'm talking shit. You said that I needed to do blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I didn't think you'd actually do it.
Isn't that killer?
It's killer within a year. So off these blood pressure meds, and by happenstance, this will blow your mind. I actually have this. I ran the numbers in the book that I wrote about child loss.
Yeah, I saw that. You have an ebook, right?
Broken Mother. Yeah. So I ran the numbers. So I don't know the numbers by heart, but by happenstance, my life insurance policy canceled. Right? You know how life is. Don't you stand there and judge me with those judgy eyes. The policy canceled, right? So I had to totally redo it. My insurance agent was like, it paid itself until you know, because that's how long it had been since I paid on it. So it canceled itself out, right? We had to totally redo it. What does that mean? Had to totally redo the physical, everything. The life insurance policy went down by $30 a month. A month, Josh.
Yeah.
Why? All because I had healthier stats. I was healthier. My blood pressure was down. I was off the medication, and all of my other health indicators were in check. I wasn't so high risk anymore. They're not telling us that. They're not telling us that. So, and now I'm knee deep in my graduate school program, and I'm doing this class called program, something to do with program. I can't remember the name of the class, but basically you insert something that changes what program evaluation. Okay. That was the name of the class. So you take a program, you insert an intervention, and you document, basically. Okay. I decided, in all my genius, that I would do program evaluation on myself. Now I'm knee deep in this journey. So I'm like, okay, my blood pressure is out of whack. So I'm going to pull all my numbers, because I was getting my blood pressure checked all the time because of this, right? So I would just stop in the doctor's office. It was across the street from my house. I would stop at the clinic, get my blood pressure taken. Then it would upload automatically to my chart.
Cool. Yeah.
So I'm in this program evaluation class, and I'm like, okay, so at the point that I the exercise, let me see what the results were. So I pull all the numbers, and you can see how it, just goes down and down and down and down. And it made me think to myself, see, this is that perfect storm. This is how God works. Yeah. It made me think to myself, now I wonder if I had done this before trying to have children, could I have changed my birth outcome? Right?
What'd you come up with? Like, what were
there's no way to know.
Yeah, of course.
There's literally no way to know that, right? But it did get my wheels turning. And so that's how Renegade Soul was born, because then I was like, maybe I should try this. And I'm talking to my best friend who's a nurse. And I'm like, we really should run, numbers to see, because I feel like personal training should be preventative medicine instead of leisure. I feel like insurance should be paying for people's personal training because it prevents so many other things.
That's an interesting point.
That's where I was, Josh. That's exactly where I was. And I said, I can show you better than I can tell you. So I became a trainer and started getting, women together. And it's all about social determinants of health and heavy lifting and grief work, working all together, working on the body holistically, mind, body, and soul. Yeah, so I got this $100,000 degree. I went to Case Western Reserve University for my social work degree, literally $100,000 for this degree. And then I became a personal trainer. And then I called my parents. I'm like, you got to be so proud of me. You know, like, you just got to be like, yes. And they were like, actually, I am, you know.
Yeah. Nice.
So that was nice, you know. So, you know, to know that they're okay with how this is going, because I'm like, this is just the craziest thing ever. But is it? Not really. So that was a really long answer to your one question of how did I get into how did I get into fitness? How did I get into bodybuilding? So
yeah, you know what's great about that is like there's a real story to it though. And like that's what's key. We all have our own stories, and that's what I think podcasts are great for, right? It's like, cool, like this is time for you to share your story, and there's gonna be people that can relate to some of it, or you know, more or less of that. I really think your point about thank you for sharing that, number one. But I really think your point about thinking about fitness or training as, you know, preventative versus leisure, that's an interesting outlook.
Yeah. So if enough of us trainers could get together and start proving this point, I think we could really push for something like that. It would take a while. It would really take a lot of us to be pushing for that and providing numbers.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that it could be something that we could really look into and start to work toward. Now, what does that say about pharmaceuticals? You know, they like us sick, right?
Totally, 100%. Yeah, they like you out of the gym. They like all that shit you're going through. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So they don't want you to be healthy.
Yeah.
Insurance, if the insurance started losing their money the way they lost with me across the board, they'd be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because at some point they're not going to be able to pay for these funerals. That's really happening because we're not paying enough in premiums.
Totally. Yeah, there's
a lot to fight against, but I think it's worth the fight. I really do.
I think that's a good point. Like, clearly you're up against like, well, at least $1 billion companies. So it's like, it's absolutely, I don't know. It's probably hard to even comprehend, like, truthfully. But I think you're right. It's like worth the fight because it's for the greater good. And we're talking about all humans, and people in those companies are still human, and they still benefit from the exact same shit.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a really like inclusive approach. I like that. I was going to ask you, okay, so you have a grief recovery method specialist certification.
Yes.
So I don't know if I need to ask you why you got into that, because unless there's some other reasons, for sure, share them.
Well, the thing that I left out of my story is that in all of that, I then became, so I no longer work for the March of Dimes, obviously. Okay. But I made a lot of connections. I know a lot of people. And one of the more valuable things about parents that work in child loss, like parents of loss that work in child loss, is that they can tap into us whenever. Like we're always going to show up because the voice needs to be heard, right? So whenever there are interviews that need to be done, I'm the one that they call. I'm one of the many that they call. I'm the one that they call. Sam, can you show up and you know, tell your story to this group of doctors? Sam, can you show up and do yada yada yada, this presentation? It's just what I do, right?
Yeah.
So after leaving March of Dimes, I was gone for a couple of years on my own, doing a personal training, and my committee chairperson called me out the blue, and she said to me, and I quote, "We got our money." And I was like, "What money?"
Yeah.
Talking about? And she was like, "Don't you remember we put all these plans in place before you left?" And I said, "Yeah." "Oh, we got our money."
Oh, shit.
So let me tell you, before I left, we decided that if Black women are going to solve this issue of the Black infant mortality rate,
4 to 1, yeah,
then we are going to have to put in place policies that work for us. We're going to have to do the work. We can't wait for the white collective to say, "Oh my God, this is an issue," because they're just not. It's not affecting them the way that it's affecting us. And so we started putting together plans where we could serve our Black community with grief work, with holistic pregnancy care, You know, it's a model called Centering Pregnancy. It's like a group model pregnancy. That's really what we wanted to dive into. It was already taking off, but really what it is you put like 8 women together who have around the same due date, and you put them in prenatal care together.
Okay.
And they show up every month together and get group care and education. And then it becomes this support group almost. And
Yeah.
then you have accountability, because if you miss, then, you know, one of the ladies are calling you like, hey, you weren't at our prenatal appointment. What happened? Do you need a ride? What do you need? You know, and next thing you know, we have basically a 0% loss rate in those groups.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So we wanted to put money there. We wanted to really cultivate this. And we have in Cleveland, we have a Black doula program called Birthing Beautiful Communities. And they don't lose. They have literally a 0% loss rate. When you put a Black doula with a Black pregnant woman who can then be your advocate, who can, you know, do those things and ask those questions and push you to ask questions and feel comfortable asking questions.
Yeah.
Then you get a much better birth outcome. And in their case, 0% loss, right? So all these things that we know are working, we were putting all of that together at the time. And then I left and I told her, I said, well, just let me know, because I'll come back on a volunteer basis. No big deal. So that when she called, she said, we got our money. Are you ready to come back? I'm like, I'm there. So, so what happened was I then became the lead parent advocate in the county. I live in a county called Cuyahoga. So I became then the lead parent advocate for child loss in my county. And as a lead parent advocate, so then I'm in charge of voices, right? Any, you know, media events, any blogging that needs to be done, you know, all of that can come through the committee that I lead. Yeah. And we also have events, candle lighting visuals. We call that the Wave of Light. Every October, we put on a huge event where we call our babies by name and light candles for them, things like that. And one of the things that they took us through was grief recovery. Now, in all of these years, my husband and I have been through tons of grief work, groups, individual, you know, all of those things. So when we got to grief recovery, they sent us through it, paid for it, everything. And it was the more holistic approach, because, you know, I was like, well, I thought that I was here for child loss, but why am I talking about these keys that I lost 10 years ago that made me miss this appointment and I didn't get that job? You know, like, why am I talking about that kind of loss? You know, so it covered so many other losses. And now you have this huge understanding of how losses over the span of your life compound and compound and compound. Right. To the point where you hit this big loss, child loss, and you're on the fucking floor and you can't get up. Well, it's not the child loss, it is, but it, you know, there's all these other losses that you haven't dealt with. Yeah, just compounding, which is why the holistic approach is so important, because it's not just this, it's how all of these other segments of your life are affected too, right? Yeah. So after they sent us through, they sent me and a few other parents and our spouses through the grief recovery program. And then they turned around, and those of us that wanted to become specialists, they sent us through the training to become specialists. And that's how I became a specialist. So, and we have a huge network here in Cuyahoga County of parents and licensed therapists that do nothing but service child loss communities within our county. And it's a free service for them. So the county pays for that, but they can tap into any one of us to send clients our way to help them through the process. Right. It's quite amazing. Yeah. So that's how I wound up as a grief recovery method specialist. Yeah. Yeah. You've had to go through the trenches yourself, which is like super legitimate too, right? To become a trainer, to become the grief specialist. Even like the volunteer stuff, it's all like related to your exact experience, right? That's really cool. Yeah. I still have some questions about, you know,
I think when we start getting into holistic work, it's really challenging to nail down like all of the actual pillars or all of the reasoning that's affecting it. But I'm wondering, I'm curious from your perspective, because like this 4-to-1 ratio sounds fucking absurd to me, right? Like I have a child, we've had some of our own experiences with children, but I'm white, and I don't know if I'm sure it's a per city thing, but like in your perspective, what were some of the main reasons that you guys went to, like it moved from 4-to-1 ratio to, it was just a 0%, right?
So we've never been at a 0%. So
Okay.
when we looked at the numbers, I said 0% within certain programs.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Across America, the infant mortality rate is so bad across America, but the number one reason for the infant mortality rate is premature birth.
Right. And you're saying that stress induced is a big part of that.
That's a huge part of it. So prematurity leads, it's like, I want to say about 60%. I don't know what the current numbers are, but back when I was doing this work, it was about 60% of the infant mortality rate was premature birth.
And that's any American mother delivering?
Any American mother. That's Black, white, Hispanic, Appalachian, does not matter.
Right, 60%.
It was about 60% for prematurity. But of that 60%, I want to say about 80% of that was Black women, was Black babies.
Okay.
Being born early, right? And so if we're leading in early birth and therefore losing these babies, then we really need to start looking at the reasons why. Right. And that's where the hard conversation about racism comes in, because, in America, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but in America, nobody wants to talk about racism, especially
I'd like
white
to jump
folks.
into it. Yeah, I
mean, white people don't want to talk about it. You see, our Congress and Senate are like, critical race theory. We can't teach that. We can't have our kids in the classroom feeling guilty for being white. Feeling guilty for being white? I ain't never heard of a thing.
Yeah.
What the hell is happening here?
Yeah, let's just talk about the issue. Like, that's it, right?
Let's just talk about it. Let's teach the history the way that it happened.
Yeah.
Because y'all created this.
Yeah. No, straight up.
That y'all.
Straight up. Yeah.
Right. So those are the things that we combat, right? So when we talk about, and I'm not saying that racism is the only reason. Like, I know a lot of white mothers that have lost. The child loss community, you just don't know how big it is until you join it.
Yeah, I bet.
And so we are one huge family. So I'm not trying to say that it's Black against white. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that I target my attention to Black mothers because that's my community.
That's
now,
straight up. Yeah.
When white mothers come my way, do I be like, no, I don't service you? No, that's not it at all.
Yeah.
Right. I pour myself 100% into every person that comes my way. They get the exact same hug from me. They get the exact same prayers from me, all of that. But I target, like, I put all of my attention on Black families because that's what I'm passionate about.
Right.
So when we are talking about the stress level, when you look at, let me see if I have anything. I don't know if this is going to be, if you're going to provide video, but I have this lotion here. Okay.
Lakeside Citrus.
Citrus. The name of it isn't important. I just want you to look at this video. Okay.
I'm like writing it down to order it.
It smells really good. Your wife will really love this. So, so you have this bottle, right? This is 100% of the stress level. Okay. This is pregnancy at the top. Okay. And then, so my white counterparts have a baseline stress level somewhere around here.
Okay. That's
just baseline. So they have all of this way to get to pregnancy. Okay. In Black families, we deal with so much. Things at work, microaggressions every single day. We live with that. And then if you think about people that live in unsafe neighborhoods, that might hear gunshots regularly. It raises the baseline, because there comes a point where if you live in a project and you hear gunshots, you don't even flinch.
Yeah.
That ain't healthy, right? But that means that your stress level, your baseline is higher because you're used to hearing that. You're used to hearing the fight outside. You're used to hearing, the things that go around you. You're used to that. So our baseline is here. Okay. So again, white baseline, black baseline. So we have way shorter to go to get to this pregnancy rate, because we're coming into the pregnancy here. Whereas white women are coming into the pregnancy here. And then, they have all of this, they got 9 months to get up to here. Right. And so by the time you get to 21.6 weeks, starting your pregnancy here, does not matter your education, does not matter that you took those prenatal vitamins for a year. It does not matter that you had all the greatest health insurance because your husband worked at the hospital. None of that matters. It does not matter, because you came into pregnancy here and your body naturally raises the stress level as the baby grows. And so once you got here, boom, here come Christian and Jaden. It does not matter.
Right. Okay.
And those are the things that I'm trying to get people to understand about why Black women are so in danger when it comes to pregnancy.
Wow. Yeah.
That's not to say that white women ain't in danger, that Hispanic women, because Hispanic women are somewhere in the middle. They're coming in, their premature birth rate is right under ours.
Yeah. Right.
Because they go through very similar things. Black and brown. I don't know that they did a study. There's a PBS special called Unnatural Causes.
Okay. I've heard of it.
And one of the episodes, it's like 6 episodes, but one of the episodes is all about child loss. Well, they did this study where they looked at African women and their birth levels in Africa is comparable to white women here in America. But it turns out that only one generation of being here in America raises that to Black women. So you take an African who comes to America, you look at all of their birth rates, their birth outcomes, and they have the same birth outcomes as white women. But only one generation, they have a baby and that baby grows up in America, they have the exact same rate as regular Black women here in America. And that's something right there. You really have to look at that and think about that. And what does that mean for women here in America, but specifically Black women? Yeah.
And that seems like clearly it's an important parallel. Like, it's not nothing. It's like,
that ain't
wait
nothing.
a fucking second, right?
Yeah.
So you're saying, I mean, it would be truly impossible to probably indicate all of the indicators, but so you're saying it's overall stress, which is like, okay, what are the differences in stress? My question to you is, and this is probably an opinion thing, because I don't know how you would be able to ever gauge the accuracy of this question, but how impactful, and it'd be in a negative way, how impactful is generational racism or generational trauma in this sort of equation?
So I don't know if you knew any of this information at all, but generationally speaking, our stress levels get so high that it changes our DNA. So I want you to think, if you can, because you might not be able to as a white man, but I just want you to imagine. Imagine back in slavery and Jim Crow days. You know what I'm talking about when I say Jim Crow?
I don't know what Jim Crow is, but go for it. Yeah, get into it. Let's get into it.
So after slavery was abolished in America, there's actually this time period of Reconstruction in America. It's about, I got to look up the years for that, but it's, really, really early on, like 1800s.
Okay.
There's this period of Reconstruction where Black Americans made great strides. We held office. It was literally called the Reconstruction because slavery was abolished and now we had the same rights everything was going well in the Black community, because now we can develop neighborhoods, hold office. We are considered equals during the Reconstruction period. But somebody in the white community got pissed about that and was like, oh, hell no, fuck that. Right?
Yeah.
It's not funny, but it really is funny when you think back on it, like y'all really was just like, fuck that. Okay, so and so they implemented laws that we call Jim Crow. Okay. Right? These are laws that are in place that block you from being able to vote. Dumb laws, like you have to be able to tell us the number of jelly beans in this jar here before you can go vote. That type of shit. Yeah. And I mean that.
Irrational, like doesn't have anything to do with it. Yeah.
I really mean that. There was stuff on the books just like that. So this Reconstruction lasted maybe 50 years, maybe, right? And then we get into Jim Crow. So that's where the biggest racism laws are in place that we still experience to this day, right? So during the Jim Crow era, that's when you can be hanged for looking at a white woman as a Black male, right? That type of stuff. Yeah. So this is a very difficult time. I'm talking about the time that, and I want you to understand how close this is to me. I am 46. My mom, who is 76, lived through Jim Crow.
Gotcha. So you're one generation away.
Okay, so that's how close this is to me. Yeah. So this is not that long ago. This is what I'm trying to get everybody to understand. We're not talking about hundreds of years ago. We're talking about a span of 50 years ago, right? So think back and try to imagine what this could be like, right? Imagine that you have a husband and wife that are raising, because back then we had like 10, 12 kids. There was no birth control back then, remember? Yeah. Let's go back a few generations. Okay. You had a husband and wife, Black husband and wife. They're raising about 10 to 12 children. They're doing okay. I mean, Jim Crow is Jim Crow, but for the most part, they're making it happen. And white people get mad and come and take out the patriarch. They lynch him. Now, I want you to imagine this single woman, no husband no more, 10, 12 children. What that family line looks like 3 generations down. So it's something that most people ain't thinking about until they have a conversation with someone like me. And I'm like, no. I need you to think about it, because I'm thinking about the patriarch of my family. See, I can trace my lineage on one side of my family all the way back to slavery. So the patriarch of my family built a school for his children because they couldn't go to the white school. And then purchased a bus, but he was also a freedman who his master had given him land because his master could not tend to the land without slaves. So he was like, you're free, take this piece of land, right? And so this is my patriarch on the one side of the family. So can you just imagine that man had been taken out and where my family would be right now? Because I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Yeah.
Right? Because that patriarch, as we call it the Great Migration, when Blacks started moving from the South north for a better opportunity, that was, say, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And as Black folks started leaving their land, it went up for tax sale, and my patriarch would go buy it.
Okay.
So my family on that side has over 700 acres of land in South Carolina. Now, could you just imagine if that patriarch had been lynched before he could have done all of that? And by the way, I still don't come from money.
Yeah.
Because those opportunities were very limited. So we could have that land, but it's not like they was going to let us make any real money off of it, right? So my family, we were well-to-do. The education was stressed, right? So there's nobody in that family line, this particular family line, that doesn't have at least 1, 2, 3 degrees. And for a long time, I was at the bottom of the totem pole because all I had was a bachelor's degree. And they were all looking at me like, when are you going to go back for your master's? Don't you think it's time for a PhD? And I'm like, no, PhD? What the hell?
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at doctorate programs. But I mean, still, imagine that patriarch had been taken out. Where would I be? And then times that by hundreds of thousands of Black folk whose patriarchs were lynched or killed or taken away. And that's just one aspect of it. We're only talking about the patriarch being taken out. But if you take out the patriarch, and racist people know this, if you take out the man, then the women and the children are not going to be able to fend for themselves.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's still true to this day.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered your question, but
No.
it's loaded, but
yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if it did or not. Like, I don't totally know, but it's not a simple answer. And it's probably a lot of individual experiences too.
Yeah. And it still ties into fitness though, right? Because now you're raising generations and generations of unhealthy people.
Yeah. Because
the mother can't fend for you.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. And so you eat scraps.
Yeah.
You come up eating the worst foods or whatever, you know, the family that you work for, if they had leftovers, they'd send you with it. It's literally scraps. And so you can't have healthy fruits, vegetables, you know, that type of stuff. You grow up with a different mindset. And so when you have high blood pressure and diabetes and all of that other stuff, which is very prominent in the Black community, then you have a lot of work to do in the fitness area. And in fact, a lot of times my clients are becoming healthy on the inside rather than outside. And they're like, I'm not losing this weight. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And I'm like, yeah, but let's go look at your other numbers. And then they're like, oh, yeah. So sometimes you have to work from the inside out.
You know, I totally agree. And I'd like to ask you some questions about that, because that's, you know, that is I think that that's a pretty common thing among clients. Like they don't, you know, we have different expectations on how we see results, like everyone individually does. But especially when you're fairly ignorant coming into it and you only have the internet or comparison to gauge by, this inside out approach is like it is the most important thing. Like truly, like it is, right? You could help someone lose 100 pounds and then, like, I've had clients that have lost 200 pounds and then they've gone up again. Yeah. And it's like, what did we not do? Yeah. Right. So when you say inside out, how important do you think, and then let's get into some of the nitty gritty, but like something like self-image, how, like, this is totally your line of work, right? Talking about, like, yeah. How important do you think it is? And let's talk about, like, what are some of the things that, how do you quantify that? So honestly, you attract exactly who you are. So that's number one. And I learned that my trainer, who became my mentor at the time, I would say to him, why do I always have the clients that got the most health issues? And he flat out said to me, Sam, you attract exactly who you are. You're attracting clients that's going to be able to benefit from your knowledge. Because I talk all the time about fuck what you look like, fuck that scale. Stay off the scale. We're not looking at the scale unless I tell you to get on the scale so I can see some numbers. I don't want you on the scale. You know, we have that conversation all the time. But let's just talk about what Renegade is, because the name of my company is Renegade Soul. So it was named for this very reason that we're talking about. So Renegade. A renegade is someone who does not subscribe to social norms. The reason that I chose Renegade is because everything I thought I knew about giving birth was a fucking lie. And we talked about that just a little while ago. I had all the best care. I had education. I had a husband. I had prenatal care. I had all the best prenatal care, as a matter of fact. And I took all of my vitamins and I still lost. So what the fuck are y'all talking about? So you have to unlearn some things, right? You have to really unlearn some things. So everything you thought you knew about fitness, you have to unlearn.
And the prime example is when I came into training and I told my first trainer, because I don't train with him anymore because he's worldwide. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now I train with his twin, who is also about to be worldwide. We don't even need to talk about it.
Yeah.
But what the first thing I said to him is, I don't want to look like no man.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I had to unlearn that. I had to unlearn what I thought I knew about weightlifting. Right. And then I saw a meme, a few years ago that I giggle at every time I think about it is, I really don't want to be bulky. Yeah. I don't want to lift weights and be bulky. And, the meme says, honey, it's the cupcakes making you bulky, not the weights. Right. So you literally have to unlearn all of the things that you thought you knew. So that's the renegade piece. But the soul, this is the most important thing. The soul is the most important thing, because there was this gaping hole in my soul. And that's the part of the body that gives the body life. Right. But I had lost so badly. Right. My babies are dead. I got dead babies. It's a gaping hole in my very soul. So I didn't even really have the will to live for a long time. And then you introduce this notion of you really can fix your body. You really can live a healthy life. And by the way, you have other people depending on you, other little people, as a matter of fact. Right. And you still have a mother, and at the time, I still had my father, and I had a husband, all depending on me to at least at some point snap out of this. So the soul is the part of the body that's said to give the body life, right? So you put those two together and you have Renegade Soul. So that's how Renegade Soul was born. So this is actually the work that I engage in, and that's that social worker in me too, Yeah. So this is that the work that I engage in is that unlearning process. So you come into personal training, I'm sure you have heard this a million times. I got this trip to Miami and I need to get this body right in 3 months. And you're looking at them like, girl, you ain't gonna get nothing together in 3 months. Yeah. We know it's true, but they don't. So you have this unlearning process that you got to take them through. And that's the first thing that I do with my clients. I tell them what Renegade is. I tell them what soul is. I tell them what Renegade Soul is all about. So if you're here for the long haul. You're not here for 3 months. Yeah. Because you could get results in 3 months, but they're not going to be sustainable because you haven't unlearned the things that you need to unlearn. So you want to starve yourself for 3 months, basically, and try to lift some weights and try to think that's going to slim your stomach down. Baby, I got news for you. That stomach is the last to go. Yeah. It's the absolute last to go. Right. So you need to unlearn that attitude. So, those types of things are things that I'm working with my clients on. And I think that it works, especially when you're having very open conversations about it, especially when you're looking at someone who's morbidly obese. Right. And they're like, I need to lose like 200 pounds. And you're like, you're going to lose the 200 pounds. But here's what's going to happen first. You're going to have to unlearn some things about eating, about drinking, about all of that. My favorite is people that come in and, on their first day, I say, okay, so tell me what you ate yesterday. And they're looking at me like, what I ate yesterday? I say, yeah, I want to know what your eating habits are. She said, well, I've been trying to lose weight, so I really didn't eat. Oh, man. It's the worst thing you could do. And then I take them straight to my bodybuilding, my stage pictures. And I say, do you know how much I had to eat in order to get my body to look like that? And they'd be like, what? I eat 6 meals a day. Yeah. You got to eat more. And they're like, eat more? Yeah, you got to unlearn this unhealthy ass attitude you got. Totally. I don't know where we came up with this, right? But people literally come into the gym thinking that they know something. And they're like, well, I only eat 1 big salad 1 time a day. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not how your metabolism works. So you told your body to pick up this weight. Yeah. Actually, you told your metabolism to slow down. You put your body in starvation mode. Now it's holding on to everything. So, as long as I feel like as trainers, as long as we are open and bluntly honest with the client that's standing in front of us, they're looking at another client who got massive results. And I'm like, yeah, but their body is not your body. Yeah. You have 2 different bodies and 2 different things going on.
Two different experiences, two different lives. Like, especially you, because you're talking about the grief and everything, and like, how impactful is that on how your body, like functions? It's like, we probably don't even totally know.
We probably could run some numbers, and we probably could start tracking that as trainers, really, seriously, because when you start to understand how grief, stress, cortisol levels, all of that affects your ability to lose weight. Once you understand your habits around grief, are you eating because you're sad? Are you drinking 3 bottles of wine because you cannot cope with the thing that is bothering you? So, one of the things that I think is one of the most amazing things as a grief recovery method specialist is that I actually take my renegades through it. I set up groups for them. We're going to do this group. And they'd be looking at me like, I don't think we would. We're going to do this group.
Yeah, we're doing this. Yeah.
We're going to do this. And we're going to do this every Monday night on Zoom.
Yeah.
And then you take them through it and they're like, I don't really think I have anything that I need to be working on. Baby, when you came out the womb, you started with grief because you was in this nice warm place. And then the doctors forced you out.
Yeah.
And there was bright lights and somebody slapped you on your ass. Grief from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then your fish died.
Yeah.
And your parent gave you bad information by saying, we'll just get you another fish. And what did that parent teach you? To replace the loss.
Yeah.
So you grew up thinking, okay, I'll just get another fish.
Yeah.
So that man left you and you said, well, there's other fish in the sea because you grew up.
Totally.
You got a lot to unlearn, and then you haven't dealt with anything because nobody said to you, go over there and just cry about it.
Yeah.
Because the first thing we say is, don't you dare cry.
Oh man. It's
sorry.
Yeah.
That made you have pause. And that's what I'm talking about. When you have to unlearn so much, we have to unlearn so much from every single area just to get to a healthy place. We just talked about grief and how it relates to fitness. Mm-hmm. Right. And when I said that, you was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's a lot, Josh. It's a lot.
You're so right too. Like you're so right. And you are right when you say it's a lot because there's so much responsibility as a coach or a trainer. Like there's like fitness is such a small part, like what you program is such a small part of it, right? Like with you doing a bodybuilding show, it's pretty important, or majorly important. But for someone that's just like losing weight, it's like, you could do 100 different things. It's like, let's get down to let's get down to what is going on between, underneath your haircut, like to figure out what you're thinking. Yeah. What are your thoughts around self-sabotage? Do you think self-sabotage is real?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I think it has a lot to do with unworked grief. I think it has a lot to do with that. And then in the culture that we are raised in, I guess maybe I should ask you who you're talking about, because I think women experience this more than men, right? So there is this saying, I'm gonna say it. It could be offensive, but I'm just telling you that this is the absolute honest truth. There is this saying in my community that goes, man, I wish I had just half of the confidence of a mediocre white male. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Do I know what you mean when that?
I'll give you a second to think about it. And if you really just don't know, I'm going to explain it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's possible for me to know. Like
okay. So let me explain.
I only have my life.
It's a very simple concept.
Yeah. Okay. Go for
it. So, and this is, again, I grew up in America. I've only been to Canada twice in my entire life, and I don't get to interact with your culture enough to know what it's like in Canada. So this is strictly my African American, Black American experience talking here, right? But when we say things like that, what we mean is white men walk around here, they don't know the first thing, but they run everything.
Yeah.
And so when they walk into a room, they feel confident that they're going to be listened to, even when they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And so much so that when I walk in a room and I got this colorful hair and got these crazy lines in my haircut and all the other stuff, I wear bold lipsticks and things like that. But when I walk in a room, they will question everything I said. And I've given them every fact, and I've provided them numbers, statistics, resources, everything for them to be like, yeah, this is legit. But they will still question everything that I said. But that white man will come in with an opinion.
Yeah, no facts, no numbers.
And they'll take that as, oh, this is golden right here. So when we say, I just want the confidence, because of that, white men in America walk around with all the confidence because nobody's ever going to question them. Whereas as women, and that's including white women, so I'm talking about all women here. If we could just be listened to, be heard, be valued in what we're saying, we still don't make the same amount of money as white men. No matter who you are, white women, Asian women, does not matter. You're not going to make the same as a white man. So if we could just have half of the confidence, and because of that, there's this thing called imposter syndrome. You know what that is?
Yeah. And I saw a video recently that you posted. So yeah, light her up.
Yeah. So, it's like, then you start to believe, because they question you so much, you start to believe that I'm not the expert here. And you start to question your every move. You start to question if I'm doing the right thing. Right. And you're absolutely doing the right thing. But because you don't believe it, because nobody else believes it, and it's being ingrained in you, then the imposter syndrome is the self-sabotage right there. Now you start to not speak up in the room. That's self-sabotage. Right.
That's a cool
now you start to believe that, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now when you know that you're supposed to eat this grilled chicken, a quarter cup of rice, and a half a cup of broccoli. And you said to yourself, I'll never be able to lose this weight, regardless of if I eat this or not. So I'm just not even going to eat it. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to have a burger. I'm going to eat the bread. I'm going to eat the cheese. I'm going to eat all the mayonnaise. I want sour cream with my fries. I want everything. I just want to eat. I just want to eat.
Yeah.
Self-sabotage, because you don't believe, you've been on this weight loss journey for a year and that stomach is still there. Facts, because that stomach is the last thing to leave. So because that stomach is still there, you're saying to yourself, fuck it, I may as well eat the fries. Self-sabotage. So I do believe that self-sabotage is a real thing. I experience it in my own life, but I also see it in my own clients, and I address it sometimes. There are times where I have to actually circumvent the system and go to their husband.
Nice.
I had to, DM them or, hey, are there snacks in your house? I need you to get rid of those. And the husband is like, why? I'm like, she's sneaking. Because she doesn't believe that she's going to lose this weight. So I need you to help her to get there.
Fuck, that's confidence right there, what you just said. That's great.
But I know it to be a fact.
Yeah.
Right. So I can be very confident in that. And I know it to be fact. I know it because I experienced it. I know it because someone went to my husband and said, you got to remove this. She's not going to do well if that's in the house. Right. I know that works, especially if the spouse cares about you. Now, if you got a spouse that's like, yeah, but I really like the fried chicken, so we're going to stop by Rally's every day. That ain't going to work.
Yeah. That's going to be a pain in the ass, that's for sure. Yeah. What do you think about, I asked you about self-image. What about self-esteem? So how do you quantify that? Because you've talked a little bit about like numbers, like looking at the numbers, and clearly with like clinical things, like I'm sure, blood pressure, heart rate. I mean, I don't know if you do like HRV, like depends. There's lots of different numbers that we could be doing as coaches.
Yeah.
How do you, I guess, so in terms of mindset, like whatever you deem mindset, which is a pretty kind of convoluted, maybe vague term to use, even, so we can get sort of definitive. What do you look for in terms of gauging progress, like in a quantifiable way? Or like, do you have anything? I don't have anything right now. I'll say that out.
I think it's client by client.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a client that has been with me for 5 years that on the outside looks exactly the same. She refuses to leave, and I've tried to drop her even. Because I feel like if you don't start to get some body changes, then eventually you're going to want to leave anyway. But you know what she said to me? She said, Sam, I have never been this strong. So you're stronger, you are healthier. We have some other health issues going on.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Okay, so that just to be, full circle, she has other health issues going on and she's seeing a doctor for it. And, the weight piece of it is a challenge. Okay.
Yeah.
So she looks the same, but she said, I've never been stronger. I've never felt more confident. I can go into any gym, even looking like this, and move somebody out of my way. Whereas, we're timid when we go into the gym. We don't want to get in their way. They're doing all this heavy lifting, but they're hogging all the weights. And you're like, you done with this?
Yeah.
You on your phone,
Yeah.
It takes a level of confidence for that.
Totally.
Right. So you have to be able to see yourself as, I'm deserving to be here, and be unapologetic when you take up that space, which is not an easy thing to do, especially in a weight room. In a weight room that's dominated by men and by bulky men.
Totally.
Right. So I think that's an important thing. So it's client by client. So when you start to, so I look at her and I say, her body hasn't changed. But she looks at her and she goes, yeah, but I'm strong. And this is my me time. And this is my time away from my kid.
Yeah.
I get an hour twice a week, totally the fuck away from my family. That is totally for me. It's all about me. I can zone out. It gets hard, but I can still zone out. And so I think that, when I say that it's client by client, because then I also have other clients who you can look at and be like, yeah, that shit's working.
Yeah.
Bitch got ass, like, damn, girl, have more or less than I got,
Yeah, you didn't have those before. Yeah.
Right. So, it's not about numbers all the time. It's literally about what the client is saying to you. When you sit down with them and you say, what are you getting out of this? Because sometimes that conversation needs to be had. Are you getting anything out of this? Because this weight hasn't changed. And let them tell you what the quantifying thing is for them. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it puts the coach in such a point of humility.
Yeah. It really does.
Oh, I think it's an unbelievable question. I'm going to start using that. Because you just remove. Yeah.
And then as you become a little bit, so I'm a very transparent person. So when you said what's off limits, and I'm like, honey, we gonna find out, because
yeah.
Generally speaking, there's nothing that's really off limits. But when you hit it, we gonna know it, because you're gonna see my face and I'm gonna be like,
yeah.
But because I am, and you've been on my Instagram page,
I
can be very, very transparent. Right. My journey is fairly unique. Right. I went from child loss to bodybuilding. That's not normal. Right. And then and all of that entails, everything that entails in itself, and so when people look at my modeling pictures, even like, how do you get the confidence to get in front of that camera with no clothes on to show your muscles or whatever else, because I got a lot of photo shoots, but people always comment like, how did you get to this point? And I'm like, I really don't know, this guy. I don't have any answers for you, because the transition has been you know, I went from hating what I looked like, hating how I felt, wanting myself dead, begging the Lord to just take my life. Don't let me wake up. I can't do this anymore. And waking up pissed because I woke up. You know, you wake, I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but you're just like,
I haven't, no.
son of a bitch.
Wow.
Why did you take me, God? And then you're having this complicated relationship with God himself, even. To growing through that, to being able to stop drinking, right? I was drinking 2-3 bottles of wine per day when I first lost. You know, how do you get to the point of just drinking water?
Yeah.
It takes a long time. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of growth. And then to be able to say, you know, to go from not being able to show my body, because for a long time, even after I lost the stomach, I just would not wear any like crop tops or anything like that. Because I was so ashamed of my midsection because my body had failed me so horribly. Like literally, I had one job in this world, and that's to have babies, according to, I had to unlearn that too.
Right.
You know, you really have to unlearn things. Like you got one job to do. Your family is like, when you gonna give me some grandbabies? I can't wait to have grandbabies. And you kill them. Right? Now, again, I'm telling you this, grief is not logical, but that is the attitude that you have when you're looking at yourself. You know, so how do you go from that to actually being able to go on stage in a bikini to flex? And what does that say about you? What, like, how victorious can you really be up there? Right? So it's person by person, it's trainer by trainer, it's what level of transparency you're going to give to your client is also the level of transparency your client will give to you. So when I'm going through the process and I'm in prep going to the stage, like I'm 16 weeks out now. So prep doesn't start for me until 12 weeks, but my clients go through the process with me and they watch very closely and they see what I have to do. And I'm very transparent with them. They know I hate cardio. I hate fucking cardio.
Yeah.
So when they see me doing cardio for an hour at 3 a.m., because that's what needs to be done, they're like, yeah. And then I show up to the gym and I'm like, well, if I could do my cardio at 3 a.m. for 64 minutes, bitch, you gonna get on this treadmill.
Yeah.
You know, like
for 20 at 3 p.m. Yeah.
Yep. And it's 3 p.m. I got to do mine at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get on this fucking treadmill and we just gonna handle what we need to handle, you know. But the level of transparency, you know, it also creates this community. We have this chat room that just goes hammer sometimes, but it also creates this community where, you know, I have a client that texts me randomly, and this happens, you know, more often than not, with an issue that's outside of personal training. Saying, I really got to know how I'm supposed to deal with this, you know, or a pregnancy question. I really want to get pregnant again. What do you think that I should do? Like, because I'm so transparent in pregnancy and loss and all that other stuff, people will come to you with their transparency. So it's very, very important. So when we're looking at, I can't remember, we were talking about body image and self-esteem.
Yeah.
We can really cultivate that in our clients by our level of transparency about our self-image and self-esteem. All of my clients know that I hated my body when I began. They all know. And so when they see my photo shoots, they're like, I know I can get there. I know that I can get there. And when there's a picture of me when I won the overall at one of my competitions. So I won first place in all of my categories, and then I won the overall. So what they do is they take the first place winners in each category, and it's broken out by age, right? So I'm physique, so you know I'm a master's physique. So then my age group is 40 and up. Then you go against the first place winner in the 30 and up. You go against the first place winner 20 and up, you know, so they put all the first place winners together, and then who looks the best out of those, and you win that. That's called overall. So I won the overall, and there's this picture of me holding the sword because that's what we won. Yeah. And I got the craziest smile on my face. I'm going to send it to you. I got the craziest smile on my face because I'm just like,
holy fuck.
Well, one of my clients, I mean, it had happened so long ago that I don't even think about the photo. But I asked this client, I said, well, you got to tell me what your goal is. And she sent me that picture and she said, the body isn't the goal. It's the joy in your face.
Well, that's great.
Right? So, now I'm boo-hooing like, yeah. Okay, let's work on it. How do we get there?
Yeah. Isn't that what we want for all of our clients? We're like, fuck that. Like, yeah, I want you to get lean, but like, we got to enjoy this process. We got to enjoy the minutes that you're spending on it.
Even when it's hard though.
Yeah. Lean into the discomfort. Yeah. Well, there's that 3 a.m. cardio. You're leaning.
Baby, listen, when that 3 a.m. cardio hit, I'll be pissed.
Yeah. You text me next time you're doing your 3 a.m. It'll be, what is it here? 3 hours earlier. So I'll get your text.
Wait, I'm 3 hours ahead of you?
Yeah. You're standard Eastern time or Eastern Standard Time, right?
It's 3 p.m. here right now. Yeah,
it's noon.
Oh, shit.
So I'm in your past right now. Are you into this? Is it good?
I am. It's been a great conversation. Like,
we got to be real with it, or people don't want to. Well, I mean, then you don't give a shit. I don't give a shit, and people don't give a shit. It's like,
and they're not gonna give a shit, and they need the transparency from the both of us in order to get anything from us.
Well, that's what I'm learning even more from you about that. So I'm gonna level up, straight up. Seriously. Yeah. I had so speaking of this time zone stuff, the last podcast guest I had last week or 2 weeks ago was from he lives in Australia. So he's 17 hours ahead. So I was like, oh shit. So I'm like, we're booking a follow-up call. And I'm like, so I can't even say what day I'm talking about. I have to be like, okay, I'll just say the time, and then I'll just add 17 hours. And like you're 6 meals ahead of me, man.
Yeah.
Like that's a little bit of a mind fuck there to schedule that in.
Yeah. So I had we once had a Japanese exchange student.
Okay.
And that we still talk to. I still call him my baby, right?
Cool. Yeah.
I have this Japanese baby. And and there people like, really?
Sure.
Baby, you don't know where I've been. You don't know what I do. Okay. So anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were like 12 hours ahead. So there are times when it's the next day for them.
Totally.
And I'm still in yesterday for them. Oh yeah.
I know it's a weird concept. You're like, shit, I don't even know how to talk to you now.
Right.
You're so far into the future.
Yep.